Thank you very much. Well, on this important day, Dominic Raab, Foreign Secretary and First Secretary of State, is on the line. Good morning, Mr. Raab.
Good morning, Michelle.
Stay home was a very specific instruction that told us what to do, how to behave. How does stay alert help us to know how to go about our everyday life?
Well, we've been in these lockdown restrictive measures for some time now, since the end of March, and obviously we couldn't stay there indefinitely for public health reasons as well as the economy. So what the Prime Minister has done is set out a roadmap for the next phase. Starting this Wednesday, the new measures, the first step measures will begin. Then from the 1st of June, another series of measures, that's the earliest they could start, subject to conditions. And from the 4th of July, another suite of measures that can be introduced or at least be considered for introduction will be considered. Okay. So it's a phased approach, and the reason we say stay alert is because as life gets back to something resembling normal over a phased period, subject to conditions and subject to monitoring, people must at all times stay alert.
Yes, so but again, I'm asking you really what that term means. Does it really mean stay at home as much as possible?
Yes, but for example, let's give some concrete illustration to this. If you can work from home, you should continue to do so. But there are vital sectors of the economy like manufacturing and construction where people can't do their job from home. So we're saying to them, they should now, from Wednesday, go back to work. The guidance, the full detail will be set out in a document today and then further guidance on Tuesday. So all of the guidance and the preparation can be done. But as people start to either go back to work or go out into the outdoors for more than just once a day, it's vital that people stay alert, both in practical terms by adhering to the social distancing measures outdoors or the COVID secure arrangements put in place in employment settings, but also for us as a country to avoid situation where the virus...
Okay, and I want to go through some more of the specific points in just a question, but I was asking you about the overall overarching message, first of all, and the reason
I was just coming on to answer that.
Because...
So the point is that as we relax some of these restrictions or move into a second phase, we stay alert to avoid wasting the sacrifices and the gains we've made and allowing the virus a second spike, which will be the worst thing of all worlds.
If it means stay at home if possible, as you've just acknowledged, why didn't the Prime Minister use those words last night? Because they're a lot easier to interpret for your everyday life than stay alert.
We have been clear, but he set out, in a TV address, the broad roadmap ahead.
He didn't use those words, did he? Stay at home if possible. In fact, he didn't say stay at home at all.
No, we said that if you can work from home, you should continue to work from home. But it's for those jobs, those vital areas of the economy where people can't do the job from home, like manufacturing, like construction, where because of the progress we've made in getting the virus down, the rate of transmission, the prevalence, people can go back to work with the consultation with employers in a COVID secure setting. But at all times, people need to stay alert so we don't see the virus take back hold.
Okay, but even on that point about the industries where people will be going back to work, you might well have a two-tier system, won't you, within that? For example, if you're a construction company, your bricklayer goes back to work, they can't work at home. Your accountant or architect stays at home and works.
Oh, absolutely right. We'll only do it where it can be done, subject to conditions and monitoring in a safe and secure way.
And that might mean the cleaner goes to work, their supervisor doesn't, the factory floor goes back, their manager doesn't. That essentially means it's your lower earners who are the ones who are going to be both taking the risk of catching the virus and taking the risk of spreading it.
No, Michelle, that's not right. What we're saying is that we've got a roadmap here that allows, where it's safe and secure to do so, people to start going back to work in those sectors where they can't work from home.
It's not the intention, but it is one of the effects of it, isn't it? Because it's the white-collar professional jobs which have the ability to work from home who then use it, and it's the others who go out.
Well, and that is... part of the reasoning for trying to allow people to go back to these manufacturing and construction sector jobs, but only where they can do so in COVID secure settings.
Although you haven't released yet the guidance on exactly how employers should go about that.
No, and of course we've created some lead time between the signalling that there is change coming on Wednesday, but there will be modest changes. The full 50-page document will be released at 2 o'clock today. There will be further sector-specific guidance, for example, on workplace settings.
People might already be on the way to work now, not knowing what kind of workplace they'll find.
No, the changes will take effect from Wednesday. So the signal that we're sending is that actually we've done the preparatory work, we've got the virus level down, the guidance is coming out in the days ahead, but we're signalling with that lead time that I've described for the modest changes that will take effect from Wednesday that people can start planning.
I'm just wondering why you didn't, though, put it out at the same time. Because you did it on a Sunday. Last week, the Prime Minister said it was because he wanted people to make changes on Monday. And yet the guidance is not even out for employers till later today, and then they've got a couple of days to put it in place.
And to be very clear about it, these are for the changes that will take effect from Wednesday. The 50-page document will be released with all of the sectors covered and not covered, and also it will deal not just what we're doing on Wednesday, but what we plan to do at different milestones down the track.
And it is just guidance, is it? There's no compulsion for
From the
employers.
1st of June at the earliest, subject to conditions, and then a further section of changes, swathe of changes from the 4th of July at the earliest. Then there'll be subsequent guidance on sector-specific arrangements. So, for example, workplace settings, that guidance will come out on Tuesday, and the same for public transport.
Right. And if it is just guidance, if an employee gets to work and looks around and thinks it's not COVID secure, can they walk out?
Well, they should follow the guidance very carefully and take direction from their employers. We're working very carefully.
Can they walk out if they feel their employer has not followed the guidance sufficiently and the workplace is not secure?
Well, I think in the last analysis, if anyone doesn't think that they're at work in any safe setting, then they use their common sense. But what we're carefully doing...
Can they walk out?
Well, I'm not going to... it's very difficult to answer that hypothetically, Michelle.
Well, it's probably the kind of thing that gives people confidence to give it a try and go to work.
Well, the thing we're doing to provide people with that reassurance is signalling that the changes will take effect from Wednesday. The full document will be out today. The sector-specific workplace guidance will be out on Tuesday. And obviously, employers have got a duty on them to make sure that they provide COVID-secure settings even within a sector which is specific to their business. So the guidance will be there, but people should take their lead from their employers, because the overwhelming majority of employers, as with everyone else in this country, is trying to make sure that we can respect the guidelines and the rules that are put in place as we transition carefully, incrementally, thoughtfully, subject to conditions and monitoring, to the next stage of this pandemic.
Okay, what about people whose work normally takes them into other people's homes? Window cleaners, mobile hairdressers, can they go to work?
No, we're saying at this stage it would be impossible to do that with the social distancing measures. Well, window cleaners will be slightly different because they could do that from outside the home. So I think
only partly.
Well, okay, but most window cleaners could do the lion's share of their job if they're dealing with outside windows. And the key thing, and that's why we say stay alert, is as we make these changes, make sure above all that you stay 2 metres apart from people who are outside of your household.
Someone who lives in Wales and works in England. In Wales, the stay-home instruction is the key one. In England, it's stay alert. Whose instruction should they follow?
Well, we're not going to cut across the advice from the Welsh executive, but we've made very clear that we think in the construction or the manufacturing sectors where you can't work from home, you can come back to work in England, and we'll see what the other devolved administrations do in relation to that. But of course,
I just want to clarify. So someone who lives in Wales and works in England should follow the instruction of the Welsh government and stay home. Someone who lives in Wales and works in England should follow the instruction of the Welsh government to stay home.
Well, I don't think we will cut across the Welsh executive's decision, but we're signalling very clearly that actually it will be safe to, and people should be encouraged to go to work where they can't work from home.
OK. A few other specific questions. Meeting people. From Wednesday, you'll be able to meet one person from outside your household. Does that mean that you cannot meet two relatives at the same time, for example, parents?
What we're saying as from Wednesday is that people can go outside, for example, to parks or certain sports where you can keep social distancing at 2 metres together with other members of their own home. If, for example, you're going to the park and you want to, and you can stay 2 metres apart, you could meet up with another member of your own household. The key thing, and that's why we come back to stay alert, is as we make some of these changes so that people can get back some of the things that they enjoy about their lifestyle and their way of life, that we maintain the social distancing measures.
So you cannot meet two parents at the same time?
Well, you could if there's 2 metres apart.
OK. Right, so you could go to the park and you could meet up with both of your parents at the same time as long as you all kept apart. OK, one other specific question on quarantine. The Prime Minister said last night that this measure would be coming into place, but only for those arriving into this country by air. Does that remain the case?
It'll be coming for anyone arriving in the UK, subject to a series of exemptions that we will set out and we'll work through. They would need to be subject to 14 days isolation. The reason, and there are exceptions, so for example, we've talked about the short straits with France, the common travel area. There are other things that we need to be able to keep freight and goods supply coming into this country and out. But the reason we're doing this at this stage is because of the progress we've made in getting the prevalence of the virus down.
Okay, so what he said yesterday wasn't actually correct on that point, that it is coming into this country by all means other than for specific country exceptions such as Ireland and France.
Yes, but that's the flexibility that we're introducing, and we're not introducing that straight away.
It does mean, doesn't it, that someone understood. But it does mean someone could fly to Paris and could then come into the country. Could come into this country by Paris and avoid quarantine.
So first of all, you said it was understood before I'd actually had the chance to complete the answer. We will introduce these measures with the exceptions worked out with the flexibility we need we're aiming for the end of the month. For example, you mentioned France. The Prime Minister spoke to President Macron last night. We will make sure that we work very closely with the French authorities to deal with the kind of situation that you described, to make sure we've got common sense measures that they'll no doubt be reciprocal, to allow crucial, for example, freight to go between the UK and France, but to avoid the risk that the virus can come through on people who are not carrying the symptoms and then start to spread and revive in this country. And when we talk about staying alert, as we open up in modest, incremental, carefully conditioned ways, we need to stay alert to avoid the second spike in the virus, which would take us back to a fuller lockdown. That's important for public health, but also for livelihoods and preserving, as best we can, our way of life in this country.
Dominic Raab, thank you very much.
And at 25.